winners and losers of the NFL draft so far.
I can break it down like this. I have a day one. I have 4 winners. I have Philadelphia, absolutely no doubt. I have the Seahawks as winners. I have the Cardinals as winners for the trade that they made with Houston, like I was talking about. And then New England as a winner. For them to get Christian Gonzalez at 17 after trading back 2, Washington folded. That was a surprise to me, them taking Forbes over Gonzalez. I was not ready for that. I had a feeling that Washington was going to take a corner of some sort. Their secondary was one of the worst in the league last year. I expected them to go corner. I expected to be Gonzalez when I saw him fall to 16. Then I saw Forbes get selected. I thought the Patriots hit a home run here. I had a feeling they were going to go secondary as well. For them to get Gonzalez, that's a W.
Gonzalez supposed to be the first corner of the board?
Top 2.
Correct.
Not only do they get Gonzalez, they screw over the Jets. They let Pittsburgh come up. Roger Jones gets picked, so it's a win-win for them.
No doubt about it.
No, I think my winners, the Texans have to be winners. C.J. Stroud, Pittsburgh franchise quarterback. Will Anderson is a defensive cornerstone. I like Juice Scruggs in the second round, the center, who beefs up their offensive line.
They do.
And Tank Dell is a nice speedy receiver.
Okay.
Although they're not my first winners, the Eagles one is obvious. You get Jalen Carter, who's the best defensive player in the draft. Nolan Smith, who's supposed to be a top 15 pick with the 30th pick. Yeah. Then you get Keely Ringo in the 4th round, who is a really good corner. He has a lot of tools.
Safety.
Yeah, I really love the Eagles draft. They hit a home run. But the Steelers draft, it was a bunch of value picks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Broderick Jones, they now solidify their tackle spot. Yep. Joey Porter Jr., who was a first-round cornerback, going in the 2nd round. Keanu Benton, whose player comp is Cameron Hayward to a lot of people, and now he's there to beef up the interior of their defensive line. And Darnell Washington, 3rd-round pick. He has the potential to be the best tight end in this draft because of his tools. And now the Steelers have a good group they can run 12 personnel with Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. I mean, the Steelers are building something good here.
So do you think the Cowboys still win the division?
With these Eagles picks,
with these Eagles, you just said,
I don't know.
With these Eagles picks,
I don't know.
we just aced the draft.
The Eagles did ace the draft. I do think. Yeah.
I mean, was there any doubt they were going to ace the draft?
Never
No,
doubt.
but Nolan Smith dropping to 30 just made no sense.
And they didn't even have to move. They had all those extra picks. So we're going to stand pat.
I thought that they made a brilliant move going from 10 to 9 because then I did think that the Bears would take Jalen Carter when he dropped there. They needed help on the interior of their defensive line. For the Eagles to just trade up 1 and really not give up too many draft assets, it was all day. You potentially get the best defensive player in this draft. Really? Understand that there are reasons to let him drop. Jalen Carter was
the Texans. I didn't have on my winners list. I don't have my losers list because you can't disagree that you get Stroud, your franchise quarterback, you get a franchise cornerstone edge, and it almost just felt like the front office and ownership said, we need to get a quarterback. The division's getting a quarterback. I guess it was before the Richardson, but they knew the Colts were probably taking a quarterback. You have Trevor Lawrence there. So it felt like the front office and ownership said quarterback, and DeMeco Ryan said, I need something for this defense. So this was their compromise by taking CJ Stroud at 2, trading all the way up from 12 to 3 to give up your own first-round pick in 2024. The Texans have to be pretty high on this roster. I mean, this team was dog shit last year. It was obviously 2nd overall pick, 2nd worst record in the NFL. So they must be really high on, obviously, CJ Stroud changed a lot. DeMeco is going to be a great head coach, I believe.
For sure.
But it's a big risk because there's a strong chance, even though they're going to get better, they're probably not making the playoffs. The Jags should have that division unlocked. They're not getting in as a wild card team. There's too many good teams in the AFC. So by giving up their own 2024 first, when they could have given up the Browns 2024 first, now who knows if Arizona would have accepted that, but it's a big risk they're taking because if they're giving up a top 8 pick again next year, now the Cardinals are in a great position to rebuild.
And that's why, like Drew said, the Cardinals had a very good draft because not only did they trade back and get a first-round pick next year that could be a high pick, along with their own draft pick, but you look at the picks they made. First round, you go Paris Johnson Jr. Now you get a tackle to protect Kyler Murray. Second round, you get B.J. Ojulari, an edge rusher they desperately needed, especially after J.J. Watt just retired. Then you get Garrett Williams, cornerback out of Syracuse, who has a lot of physical tools. Torn ACL made him drop in the draft, but he's somebody who has a high upside. And also Michael Wilson out of Stanford, wide receiver, who also has a lot of physical tools. Arizona's betting, at least in the 2nd and 3rd round, on the high upside guys.
That's what you should do. Yeah, especially I love the Paris Johnson pick because I think he's the best tackle in the draft, and he's also going to be great, but not going to lead to a lot of wins this year. He's going to come in, and obviously an offensive tackle has a big impact on the game, but for a season, it's not like someone like a quarterback or even maybe a receiver could have a bigger impact. So you get a franchise-setting tackle who's still going to, help you lose some games, thankfully.
Like, for example, what if Arizona next year, they get the first overall pick in the draft? Yep. They trade back and get a haul for Caleb Williams. And with their second first rounder with the Texans pick, they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. They now have a great wide receiver core. They have a ton of picks to draft for this roster and rebuild. I think the way, if you have a quarterback on a major deal, the way to build the roster around him is to hit on the draft. Exactly. And you need to have capital.
And they have to.
Yeah. And two other teams I want to mention. I thought the Giants had a great draft. Round one, Deontay Banks,
freshman corner,
just blindsided me.
Yeah, I thought you gave yours.
No, I'm going round one, round two, but I'm fine with absolutely.
Yeah.
Giants are
Banks,
winners for me.
Super athletic, physical, aggressive, 6 foot.
They get a
6'1".
receiver.
They got Jalen Hyatt in round two.
It was written in the stars.
Probably the top rated center, 1 or 2. I thought they had a great. You came into this draft, they needed a corner, interior offensive line, and receiver.
Absolutely,
bang, 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 hit it all in the first 2 rounds.
I tweeted this out, a picture of it, because it was really just, you couldn't make it up. The receivers drop shockingly for JSN to be selected, the first receiver off the board at pick 20. At pick 20, you have the Seahawks JSN. At pick 21, the Chargers, they go Quinn Johnson. At pick 22, the Baltimore Ravens go Zay Flowers. At pick 23, the Minnesota Vikings go Jordan Addison. Pick 24 is the New York Giants. You just could not make it up.
And you wanted Hyatt at 24, and he ended up falling.
Facts. I would have been more than happy if they selected him in the first round, but I was happy that they ended up playing the board, trusted the Joe Schoen. He continues to be great for the New York Giants. Deontay Banks, that was a fire selection for them.
Dehls. Sorry.
That's okay.
No Ravens left?
I thought the Ravens had a really good draft too. Yeah, for sure.
They had a very good draft day.
Did Zay Flowers have anything to do
Lamar
with
Jackson
Lamar
signed long term
signing?
What do you mean?
Had everything to do with it.
Like Lamar looking at what they're doing.
Zay
Like,
Flowers.
Oh yeah.
Because Zay Flowers is
you've been high on him.
I was gonna say
Zay Flowers
I almost thought Joel was gonna go into 15-minute Zay Flowers round.
Third round. Listen, Jalen Hyatt. I never thought he was a first round pick. Third rounder. I like the pick a lot.
Very great value.
Even in the second round, I would like
and I would be remiss because, again, I wanted to do a day one, day two winners. The Denver Broncos. Are you kidding me? For us to trade up into the second round to get Marvin Mims, get more, what I've been praying for, skill position players for my brother Russell Wilson, especially with Sean Payne coming to this offense. You want to be a little bit more dynamic. We needed some speed. Marvin Mims provides that for us. And then we trade into the third round and add depth to our linebacking core, what we desperately needed with Drew Sanders. I loved our 2 selections. Yeah. I couldn't have been more happy with them.
And Marvin Mims, I think, is going to be a great weapon for somebody who has such a strong arm like Jarrett Stidham, who can really sling it down the field. I think he'd be a great addition for them. I know people didn't like their draft, but I thought they won. This isn't the Lions. I thought the Lions did win too. Ooh. Although Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell were drafted way too high, they kind of made up for it with the Brian Branch pick in the second round with Hendon Hooker in the third round. They made up for it because
I agree.
If Brian Branch was the 12th pick and Hendon Hooker was the 18th pick, nobody would have really batted an eye. And so I think if you swap them, it makes it a little bit better. But the Seahawks, getting Devon Witherspoon, you now have him, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, getting JSN. You now have DK Lockett and JSN. Oof. And I know people didn't like the Zach Charbonnet pick, but I like the versatility it brings to your running game. Kenneth Walker's a home run hitter. Zach Charbonnet is the bruiser type who is a good third down running back, good pass catcher, is good in pass pro. I like the versatility, and that's why I like those picks a lot.
And with the Seahawks, where right now you're looking at that roster, what holes do they really have? It made sense that they wanted to add a little bit of depth at running back, where it was Kenny Walker, and then I'm blanking, Travis Homer. So I understood if you wanted to add some depth there because you look at this
Travis
team.
Homer's on the Bears now.
Oh,
correct. So you look at that team and there's very limited holes. Maybe you look on the defensive side of the ball and you look at safety, but you forget, Jamal Adams was out all season. He'll be back next year. This team is going to be and is already set up very nicely for the futures, and they have one team to thank for it.
Losers of the NFL draft. Now, for me, I only have 2 teams and I have a player.
A lot of winners.
Oh, wait, question.
I was shocked. Yeah. There's a lot of winners.
There's a lot of teams that I like how they draft.
When do you guys think Seattle gets a QB to build around? like a future.
Geno Smith is great.
No, I'm saying like a young quarterback.
Sure.
I mean, listen, Seattle, I don't believe is in a rush for a quarterback.
Right.
Geno Smith is in his early 30s. Quarterbacks can play long in this league. And right now they're just building this team around him. I'm fine with it.
It's hindsight, but I believe that if Anthony Richardson wasn't selected at 4, I think that the Seahawks would have been primed to select him.
Okay.
But the fact that the NFL teams ahead of him, obviously the Panthers, Houston, and the Colts, they basically left them with no other option. I'm sure they weren't intrigued with Will Smith. It forced them into to drafting Devon Witherspoon, which I'm sure they weren't upset with. But I think that this was their last great chance, unless they're bad in the future, to draft
How old is Geno? Like 32, 33?
30, I think.
31.
Yeah,
okay.
facts.
So he ain't old.
I
thought he was a little older. He's been here for a minute.
He has been,
Eight
9 years.
Yeah.
He's 32.
Okay,
he turns 33 October 10th.
Okay, so he's fine. He'll be around.
Losers, I think the first loser in the draft is Malik Willis, player.
Okay.
Will Levis getting selected now, I think, hinders his chances of being a future starter, at least for the Titans. Another loser, Michael Mayer. I didn't expect him to slip this far. You had
I thought it was a great landing spot.
I
thought so too.
Dalton Kincaid went over him as expected. I didn't expect Sam Laporta to go over him.
I didn't either.
And if the Lions selected Michael Mayer, I would have gave their draft an A++. Yes. Sam Laporta, they like his upside and traits more, but Michael Mayer is just a better player. I do like his landing spot with the Raiders, but the fact he slipped is why I have him as a loser, because the Raiders now have a good group of receiving weapons with Michael Mayer. You have Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams. It is a good landing spot for him. I like that a lot, and he's now the Darren Waller replacement. But for losers, the 49ers, I think, were obvious for me. Drafting a kicker within the top 3 rounds, I think.
And that was I think he was they had no first-round picks, no second-round picks. He was either their first or second pick in the 3rd round, which is a very strange way to go about it.
But we now realize, although CMC had a huge impact on the 49ers offense, this is what happens when you trade those top value picks for a running back, and they could have used some good players in these spots that ultimately was traded to the Panthers.
They took a kicker and they took a backup tight end. They drafted a tight end who's obviously going to play behind George Kittle.
And the Titans, I also thought, lost too. I like Peter Skoronski as a player.
I thought that was a W, honestly.
It was a good pick because they needed to fill the void. Nate Davis left. But like I mentioned, I want them to draft more skill position players because right now they don't have that. And that's ultimately why their offense has been lacking.
You would have been happy with JSN at 11?
I would have been happy with JSN there, or I would have been happy with them trading back and going with Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers is going to be an awesome player. Will Levis too. For second round, people will say, yeah, it's great value.
Correct.
But I just don't think Will Levis will be a good quarterback. So it doesn't matter if you draft Will Levis in the 2nd or the 5th. To me, I don't believe he's going to be good. Therefore, I don't view that as a great pick.
I hear you.
And that's why some people have the Lions as losers because they don't believe Hendon Hooker will be good, which is why drafting him in the 3rd round, they don't like either.
If the Lions didn't have the 2nd and 3rd rounds that they did, I would call them losers, but the 2nd and 3rd rounds, they definitely made up for it. And the reason why I look at the Titans as not so much losers is because I thought that the Bears were in prime position to take Skoronski, but instead they go Darnell Wright. I thought that was shocking to me. I feel like Chicago's draft was pretty interesting also.
It was.
But a loser I have, and Joel, you might not agree with this, is the Falcons. I think that you going Bijan at 8 was a huge mistake. You needed to continue to bolster up your defense. And in my opinion, running was not an issue for you. You mentioned it perfectly. And the point you're going to make, I agree with. The scheme is what makes the Falcons rush game so dominant. But it wasn't essential. Bijan will elevate you guys because Bijan is a generational piece at the running back position. I'm not going to disagree with you there. But you had so many holes on defense that you needed to address. And more importantly, Jalen Carter was right there for you. I don't care if you already think that you have the interior defensive line set up for you. You add the depth there because you need to continue to bolster up that defense. I think that Bijan is going to be phenomenal with them. No doubt about it. I don't think that he will be a bust.
So what position do you think they should have went?
Defense. Anything defense related.
Anything.
Secondary. Jalen Carter was right there primed for them. Yeah, I mean, you guys came up because of that.
I'm not going to say my spiel. I'm going to save it for the later topic when we talk about Bijan specifically. I understand why you might have think the Falcons lost. The Bijan pick, drafting him 8th overall. I do think that running backs in the past that have went that high, they've been warranted to go that high. Outside of Leonard Fournette.
You said that, but he was very, very, very good.
Pro.
Do you need to be all pro for you to be
all pro's hard?
Is it if a running back and you're taking
if you're a top 10
overall,
pick,
6th,
yes,
whatever
you have
it
to
was,
be an all pro.
I just think that Leonard Fournette was fantastic for the Jaguars.
Like I look at Saquon Barkley as a rookie, he changed the Giants offense. This past year with the Giants, he changed the Giants offense. If it was not for this past season Saquon had, that is an L pick. But the fact he had this
was
season,
Melvin Gordon all pro?
Nah, but that's an L pick for a first rounder, I think.
But that's what I'm saying. You're saying the only one that you're fine with or not fine with
I think
is
he was
Lenny.
top
But
10,
Saquon, it was Saquon, Zeke,
CMC. Wasn't Melvin like
Gordon
12?
was on that list though.
Yeah, but he wasn't. I'm talking about like top 10 picks for running backs.
He was 12.
They ended up getting Eckler later in the draft, not that same draft, but later on, and just took over the.
Yeah, that's why for me, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. And also
receiver.
in the second round, they drafted a guard who's very good, who bolsters up their run game. So I think the Falcons had a pretty good draft, and they didn't need to go defense. In free agency, they bolstered up the defense a lot.
Jalen Carter's
did, but it's Jalen.
I don't hate the Bijan pick. The Lions, I'm so torn on the Lions because I had them on my losers,
Correct.
but I like the players they got. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Brian Branch, I think, is a dog. Jack Campbell, I'm not going to sit and pretend I watched a ton of Jack Campbell tape or Sam Laporta we scouted. I had Michael Mayer over him. So the Lions, I'm just so torn on because just the positional value they kind of went with. You take a running back at 12, and they were ecstatic that Gibbs was at 12. There's a report out there saying the Jets would have taken him at 15. I really don't believe that. Just knowing who Joe Douglas is to take a running back at 15 seems kind of strange. But Jack Campbell, who they also said is off the ball or is more than just an off the ball linebacker, but that's all he really did in college. So maybe they're expecting him to play a completely different role in the pros. You're asking a lot from him there. Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round. If you take a potential starting quarterback, I can't be mad at you, even though, he's got some work to do. Obviously being 25 already and sitting for a year, his upside probably isn't as high as some other guys in this draft. Brian Branch, I loved. I'm very torn between the positional value compared to actual good players on the football field because they're getting good players. It's just the way they drafted them was kind of strange. But to Drew's point, they made up for it on day 2 and day 3 with some of their picks. I thought Washington was a loser, taking Emmanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez. Very strange draft pick. And you mentioned the 49ers. The fact that you have very limited draft capital, only 2 or 3 picks on day 2, and you spent 2 of those picks on a backup tight end and a kicker. The 49ers are going to be great. They're going to have the second or first best odds to win the NFC, but just strange, again, positional value when it comes to such limited draft capital.
And the Cowboys, I like the Mozzie Smith pick, defensive tackle. They needed to bolster up their run defense, but I would have loved Michael Mayer in that spot.
I thought it was going to be a tight end pick.
I would have loved the Cowboys to continue focusing on offense because, at least for me last year, defense was not their issue. It felt like they need more juice offensively, and I thought they would have focused in on offense this draft, and most of their picks have been defensive players.
Especially after losing Schultz.
Exactly.
I also, late, but I thought the Bills had a really good draft, taking Kincaid round 1. You got Osiris Torrance, the guard from Florida, who was a lot of people's top guards. Thought they had a really good draft.
They did. You
think they're ever going to go receiver?
They got Gabe Davis, bro.
We currently have
Kincaid's fine.
We currently have 206 likes on this stream. Make sure you guys like this stream up because we have 671 people watching right now. Let's get the number up to 300, 400. Make sure you guys like this stream. They went with Kincaid because I think they're going to go more 12 personnel now with Knox and Kincaid.
Yeah, because Knox and Kincaid have a very similar skill set. Tight end could stretch the field types.
My brother Knox some more love.
Knox got some elite catches in his day.
He does.
He
does.
But
for a first
round
the ball. Tight end,
I know.
Knox is probably going to see less snaps.
Biggest steals and surprises of the NFL draft.
We kind of did surprises already, but for steals, I think Christian Gonzalez getting selected at 17 is a steal. Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith at 9 and 30 respectively. That is a steal to me. I just really the Philadelphia Eagles.
Their whole draft's a steal.
They're just amazing. Everything they do. Howie Roseman. I'm not upset.
Oh, okay.
I'm not upset at all. Actually, I'm just giving acknowledgement, but also understanding that it's every year. It's clockwork. Draft time comes around. This guy's chugging his water, having the time of his life.
John,
I've been hearing that the whole episode. That was fucking.
But really, it's that Christian Gonzalez selection is huge, and then JSN at 20. I expected JSN to be a top 15 selection to drop to 20 at the Seattle Seahawks selection. That's a steal for me.
Jets trade back once again with Vegas.
There was a lot of skill position players that were steals in this draft. I look at Christian Gonzalez with the Patriots, 17th pick. That was, of course, a steal of the night. JSN Seahawks, 20th pick. Michael Mayer, 35th pick to the Raiders.
Sure.
That was a steal. And the Broncos, Marvin Mims, 63rd pick.
I have that on my list.
I'm a big Marvin Mims guy. I think he's going to be an exceptional receiver. The Giants drafting Jalen Hyatt, 73rd pick. And then the Colts. We didn't talk about it, but Josh Downs, the 79th pick. The Colts had a very underrated draft with Richardson, Josh Downs. They now have Michael Pittman, Alec Pearson, Downs. That's a good receiver.
A lot of your guys.
That's a good receiver. A lot
of your guys, yeah. I think you guys mentioned that. Gonzalez, Mims, Jalen Carter, Miles Murphy at 28. I thought the Bengals did a great job there. Nolan Smith and Brian Branch. So we touched on most of these.
And Darnell Washington, 93rd pick, was also a big time steal. One of the biggest steals of the draft, honestly.